Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:30. We have all of our directors in attendance except for Director Carrion, and our student board representatives are with us this evening, and we have a DT up on the dais with us, so thank you for joining us. She's actually going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you could please stand. The flag is right over here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to agenda item 2.01, which is action to approve our regular meeting agenda. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 2.01, action to approve the regular meeting agenda?
I move to approve our regular meeting agenda. Second, same.
Vice President Miller motioned and Director Wiggins seconded. Thank you. Do we have any discussion?
In progress.
I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 2.01, action to approve the regular meeting agenda, passes 4-0. And that brings us to the public comment portion of our evening. And actually tonight we do not have any public comments, so I'm going to go ahead and just skip that section and move on to agenda item 4.01, which is our student board representative report.
Hello everyone, so my name is Aditi Rana. So the first thing I wanted to highlight in regards to what's going on in the high school is accomplishments in sports. This past week, our girls golf team had their leagues tournaments, and those went really well for them. Additionally, you might know about this cross country, which is really big at our school. They had their big meet, the Nike Hole in the Wall tournament at Lakewood High School. And the girls' varsity team is now first place for the 4A teams. And the boys did really well additionally. And they also, a lot of our players had really high accomplishments and had lots of personal records. Additionally, there are swim leagues for the girls this next week as well, so that's very exciting. A couple of days ago on Sunday, there was also an Out of Darkness walk that was held in Seattle at Tahoma High School. And the SAMHA students, which is our club that works with addiction and suicide and issues regarding that, they helped with an Out of Darkness walk up in Seattle. And we did have one last year that was at our school, that was more low-key just because of COVID and whatnot, but this year they wanted to partner with them in Seattle and have a more bigger event, and that was also with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So overall, that was just to raise awareness because we have seen kind of even in our own community a lot of struggles with suicide and whatnot, so they wanted to do that to reach out and just let everyone know that people care about you as a student. Adding on to that, this past week, we also had freshman elections for freshman class officers at the high school, and that just kind of ties back to the idea of wanting to have students to be able to have a voice in our school making decisions and whatnot. So having that and having our new freshmen in the high school be able to have that voice and be able to share their thoughts for their peers is also a good thing. Additionally, our Tahoma Drama Club, which is also very big and very successful, is working on their play called The Play That Goes Wrong. And the shows are very soon at the beginning of October on the weekends of the 4th and the 5th and then the 11th and 12th. So you should definitely go check them out. They're very talented. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about the Tahoma Success Center, which is this kind of revamped program from last year that allows students to connect with other students either during power hour, maybe before or after school, or sometimes during their class periods even who need extra help. So it's kind of like a tutoring service, but since you're connecting with other peers that were able to take those same classes and are able to connect with you on a deeper level, it allows students maybe who are struggling, not able to learn with their teachers' specific teaching style or whatnot, to get additional support. And that's it for the report.
Thank you so much. We will now move on to agenda item 5.01. This is actually the transition to our presentation, discussion, and action item portion of the evening. And as we move on to this section, I would like to remind my fellow board directors that we have agreed on using round robin to ensure that each member has equal opportunity to speak. We will keep our discussion length per agenda item to 20 minutes, which I will monitor, and individual board members' discussions to 3 minutes per agenda item, which Mrs. Wheeler is going to monitor for us. Each director's time will begin with the first word that they speak and will continue through the responses that are provided. So we are going to kick off with our Lake Wilderness Cruise. This is agenda item 5.01, Lake Wilderness Elementary Student Leadership Team.
Oh, I'll just point to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So good evening, Tahoma School Board and Tahoma community members. We are thrilled to have been asked to come and talk a little bit about student leadership at Lake Wilderness this evening. I'm Amanda Blash, I'm the Dean of Students at Lake Wilderness, and here with me is Leanne Roble, our school counselor, Melanie Reedy, our principal, and some incredible student leaders, Ethan Brower, Sean Carrero, Taji Minaj, and Austin Hvac.
So as a district, we're always working to help all of our students grow. This graphic up here may look familiar to you from our previous site plans, but it really demonstrates how the Tahoma goals align with our Lake Wilderness kind commitments. You can see how belonging, student voice, and collaboration help us achieve our goal of learning and growth. Student leadership allows us to apply what we know about each student's name, strengths, and needs to support and facilitate belonging, true collaboration with students, and gives them a voice. This allows them to thrive. So we could stand up here and talk about student leadership, but why hear it from us when you can hear directly from our student leaders?
When you think about student leadership, you might think of the traditional student leadership team, also called SLT. That's what we had for leadership opportunity going into the pandemic. There are now several other opportunities that we can apply for, including SLT, Wildcat Words co-anchor, Wildcat Word video editor, Wildcat welcomers, assistant librarians, lunchroom leaders, table club leaders, recess leaders, assembly MCs, and morning announcement leaders. You're chosen based on applications, audition videos, belonging teacher and counselor data, who has had an opportunity before, and our strengths and growth areas. Being a student leader has impacted me by making me popular, meaning I've gained many good friends along the years. Also, being a leader makes my family proud of me, and it feels great to be proud of. Being a co-worker helped me follow the Wildcat Way too, since student leaders have to sign they will follow the Wildcat Way. This year, more than 1/4 of the Wildcat student population applied for leadership positions. That's almost 300 student leaders. These are the faces of almost 130 student leaders chosen just for this fall. I can only imagine what the picture would look like in the spring. Last year on SLT, we were practicing leadership scenarios, deciding on spirit weeks, giving feedback for growth in classrooms, and after the student belonging survey, it got to problem solve how leaders set an example for others. When I make a change in my school, it makes me feel like I just won the lottery. Leadership makes me feel like I make a difference, and it's also just a fun experience. Even when I wasn't in SLT last year, I still found ways to lead, like when Mrs. Blashaw and I had monthly meetings during my recess, when we talked about ways to make the school a better place. For example, we started school-wide pocket drawings, a suggestion box, and we'll be starting recess leaders later this year. When I make a difference, it makes me feel like a tree. Growing good ideas, I will keep growing as a Wildcat leader.
So you won't be able to read what's on this slide, but I wanted to kind of zoom out to our site plan level and the role that our student leaders play in our site plan. When we have a lot of adult meetings and PBIS meetings around what does belonging look like, but one of the most important action steps we made was to ask our students, what does belonging feel like? And when do you feel like you have the capacity to share your thoughts and feelings? And so this was from our 2nd and 3rd graders and 4th and 5th graders during that leadership meeting and their thoughts around belonging. So the next slide is giving that feedback to our teacher teams. And our teacher teams listening to our students and saying, yeah, we need to implement that. We need to think about these action steps, and we need to listen to students. So thinking about our STAR and our goals, that student voice is a big part of the change and the commitment we have to make Lake Wilderness a better place for kids.
started to communicate and feel close to one another. We were at home, and we continued it forward because it is such a helpful way to share important information. We watch it every week in our classrooms, and our families see it too. My sister is joining the Wildcat Word like me. I had been a Wildcat Word anchor before. I am excited that my sister is joining the Wildcat Word because she doesn't know how to read yet, and I can't wait to help her. I am excited to see her read because it's her first time doing the Wildcat Word. I read a lot to myself so I can read in front of everyone without being nervous. That's why the Wildcat Word impacted me a lot. I'm inspired to be a part of student leadership because I'm in 5th grade, so this is my last year at the school. Also, I have some goals set before middle school. One of them is being a lunchroom leader. So far, that one has been checked off my list. I'm also inspired by my friends. They have been in student leadership roles before and say it's very fun, interesting, and gives them more confidence. At Lake Wilderness, we believe that every student is a leader, and it's our responsibility as students and adults to know each student's story to lift up how we contribute to our school community. We've now added 2 more rounds of applications, one in the winter and one in the spring, with new leadership roles that students help suggest are inspired by our applications of students who don't get those.
As a couple students mentioned, Tahoma School District is a collective story of each student's name, strength, and need, as you saw in our kind commitments. And leadership at Lake Wilderness has adjusted and grown tremendously over the last couple of years as we continue to center and learn from those stories, some of which you heard tonight. From the student with an IEP and speech who used their role on the Wildcat Way to learn and grow in their speech development, to the SLT student who changed our spirit days and what Pajama Day looks like so that all students and families and bodies could feel included in that spirit day, to the student in the lunchroom who noticed our recycling was mixed with trash and started our lunchroom leaders, even what you heard from Sean in starting a new leadership role in recess this year. These leadership roles have reached beyond meetings. That's because of the students involved and their voice and their ideas. And they've made sweeping impacts to our school community and how we think about systems, traditions, and structures. We often just need to listen to their very important voices. So, like Boston mentioned, every Wildcat is a leader. So, as we look to the future in student leadership at Lake Wilderness, we want to continue to shift our perspective from leadership as a title, but also, in providing these opportunities for leadership titles, they offer a structure and a conduit for belonging, student voice, and collaboration in service of student growth. We've seen how the impact of those titles goes beyond the meeting to influence families, some of which were here tonight supporting them, classrooms, and friendships, as you heard from a couple of them. So as we look forward, our goal is in partnership with our school PBIS goal in partnering with families and communities, and how we can deepen our community connections with student voice as we move forward. So thank you for the time to share, and thank you to our student leaders for joining. And I'd love to open it up to any questions or comments from everyone.
Directors, do you have any questions?
I just really appreciate, as I'm looking through the different opportunities that you provide for your SLT students, I appreciate how in looking at these different roles, I don't know if we can put those up, AJ. It's slide number 4.
Keep
It's
going.
the opportunities and applications.
Yeah.
I just appreciate how you have different opportunities that really key into different kids' strengths. Everything from a kid who really enjoys public speaking, like some of you wonderful kiddos up here. I am so impressed with your public speaking skills. That is really, you did a fantastic job. But then there's other kids who maybe want to lead and they don't feel comfortable doing it in very outward ways. So you have things like kindergarten dismissal helper. So I just really appreciate that you're thinking about every kid and their different strengths and how they can all help in this way. So I just really want to say thank you for that. I love that. And great job, kids.
Yeah.
And Ms. Reedy.
And Ms. Blatcher.
Yes, all of you.
I'll chime in too. I'm just I'm blown away. I think this is wonderful. You all did a wonderful job. Good job tonight coming up with what you wanted to say and stepping up to the microphone. And you were very poised and tremendous work. A lot of things going through my head. I really like the fact, like Director Pendergraft was saying, that there's a variety of roles here, but I also like that you're celebrating leadership, demonstration of leadership, even if you don't have one of these titles attached. Great ideas come from everywhere, and you want to hear them, and you want to celebrate them, and implement them regardless. And I think that's really wonderful too. And then on top of that, I'm just really I'm encouraged and inspired by the impact that you're having. You know, it's not just that you have an opportunity to be in a leadership position and understand what that takes and the meaning that can have for you, but you're creating an impact for your school community. It's a big deal. And so serving in this role is creating a better Lake Wilderness, if you can imagine such a thing. It's creating a better Wildcat way. So congratulations and thank you for what you're doing.
Aditi, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I did want to comment as well. I just wanted to say, especially since you guys are like very young, like in elementary school, I remember like I was part of this kind of like leadership group when I was also in elementary school, and I feel like it's just really impactful, especially at such a young age. Like I bet some of you have grown a lot, like each one of you have grown a lot as leaders, and just the whole message you guys are trying to spread of encouraging other students, your fellow peers to be leaders as well. I feel like that's very impactful and will help you a lot in the long run. So I feel like overall you guys are doing a very good job, and you should be very proud of yourselves.
No, just I don't have anything really net new to add to what my colleagues have said. I think one thing Director Miller said, I think it just rang in my ear when he was saying, we talked about leadership and service. I think sometimes we think leadership is about leading others who serve, but leadership is the ultimate service, right? In the sense that there's a phrase that hopefully you will learn more and more as you all grow up, and that is kind of the servant leader, right? The person who leads from the back. Have you ever heard those terms before? It means that you're always the one there doing the work and not just kind of telling people what to do or kind of directing them, but you're always one to put your shoulder into that wheel. And so I can tell from your presentations that you were all doing that, and that's a huge piece for me. Because I remember when I was in grade school and junior high and high school, you know, you wanted to get the leadership things because you wanted to put it on your application. You used to go to college someday, and all those things look good, and they do. But I think it's different these days, and I would commend you for being willing to sacrifice your time and your energy to actually serving. But you use the word leading, but just serving. So thank you. Super impressive.
I have two questions, one for the kids and one for the grown-ups. So I'm going to do the kids first. I would love to know how you outreach to your friends who may not feel comfortable stepping up and serving as a leader. Maybe they don't see themselves as a leader yet. What kinds of things do you do to try and encourage them to give it a shot?
And you feel good when you make a change. And students, along with teachers, definitely help and encourage student leadership teams because they just want to help children have a nice life, and they want to help children definitely feel like they're being involved. They want to be part of the school, so we can give them everything to make them feel part of the school.
I love all those outreach ideas. You all are doing a great job. And then grown-ups, I have a question for you. I'm curious, as you have put these systems into place and you've realized that there are so many opportunities that we can provide for students to actually become leaders. Are you connecting with schools outside of Lake Wilderness so that other schools can benefit from all of this work that you're doing?
Absolutely. So I think we've discussed them at some of our D meetings, at least. We regularly go over what our SLT agenda is at least. But going on, I think part of it is that idea of listening to students and their stories that feeds into what their strengths are. Some of these opportunities came from the students at Lake Wilderness' story and what they really care about. And so a lot of our discussion is how do we listen and pull these stories from students and learn those stories or those strengths and interests, or maybe some needs for growth so that we can capitalize on that and continue to grow.
I can give an example. So when Principal Weiss was at the building and sharing about sixth grade, going to different classrooms and just sharing about opportunities, and they raise their hands and say, well, what about videos? What about video editor? Because that was meaningful for one of the students in one of our classrooms. And he said, well, let's get that going. So I think that by then they're being an advocate for their own selves. And then that's what's spreading to other schools.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you all so much for everything that you're doing to help make Lake Wilderness such a special place for all of the students in our
President
community.
Hall,
Yes.
a couple things that I wanted to add. One, in my position, helping some of the adults in our system become better leaders is part of my job. And one of my favorite books that I've given to all of our principals is called Better Together. And one of the quotes in it, I was listening to you guys and it really triggered something for me about that particular book. And one of the quotes that's in that book that is so much a part of becoming a leader is, leadership is not a rank or a position to be attained. It's a service to be given, like Director Miller and Wiggins were addressing, and you guys embody that. So to the students who came here tonight, thank you so much for that. It's deeply appreciated. And then the last piece is I'm hoping we can get a picture with them, with the board back.
So,
If families wanted to get a picture, it's a great opportunity for if you want to get up next to AJ. Don't be shy. Slide over. Come on up, Dan. Come on up. Let's step up.
Finest they ever are.
Thank you, guys.
and please know, we recognize that students have earlier bedtimes, and adults, this goes for you too. Please do not feel like you need to stay for the rest of the meeting. We have loved having you, but you are also welcome to go.
And it'll be a little while, so we'd encourage you to think about exiting right now.
Choose wisely. Choose wisely. Agenda item 5.02 is action to approve our district-wide HVAC preventative maintenance agreement. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 5.02, action to approve our district-wide HVAC preventative maintenance agreement?
I move to approve our district-wide HVAC preventative maintenance agreement.
Second that motion.
Vice President Miller motion and Director Wiggins seconded. Operations Supervisor Sean Kelly is now going to join us.
Madam President, Directors, it's always an honor to come before you here at the school board meetings. This is we usually do a yearly, but now we're going to do a 3-year contract. And that's why you kind of think of the big picture here. Starting at 5 a.m. every morning, all the HVAC units turn on. They stay on until 5 p.m. And we have special events like this, they're on longer. So like our cars or other pieces of machinery, we have to take care of them and make sure they keep our students safe, warm, dry, and foods. Here's some facts. We have 17 boilers, 8 chillers and cooling towers, over 200 plus heat pumps, rooftop air handlers over around 45 to 50, and portables all have HVAC units on too. So we went out for contract, we being Cindy Garcia, our purchaser, maintenance specialist, Cody Bowden, maintenance specialist, Mark Sutton, and then Tina Angel, our administrative assistant, went out for bid on these projects. And we sent out to 3 companies. Chemistry did not respond. Biomechanical, we've been doing it for a long time, they did respond. And Hermanson, who we've used before, did respond too. So we're recommending that Hermanson get the contract for this for 3 years. We've had contracts with them in the past. They're a great company. They're responsive, they have concerns. And also biomechanics will still be involved in our systems for other issues. So, any questions? More than willing to ask?
Yeah, just apart from price, were there other things that you were looking for in these proposals, and then how might have Hermanson met those interests?
One of the big things is when the techs come out from like Hermanson, bio, or chemistry, is those techs are willing to train our staff what they're working on. Does that make sense? So like coding markets and training. One thing we did work with Hermanson on is we wanted to make sure they were proprietary, so that we could have other companies work on the same HVAC units. So that was big, and they were willing to adjust the contract for that. So that was the big thing, the training for current employees.
Great, thank you.
2 quick questions. First, just in general, could you speak a little bit about when we have companies coming into the building, what's our standard practice? Are all the employees that come in, the workers that come in, are they background checked and that kind of thing?
Yep, yes. So we have 7 employees that work for the school district. They go through HR, and then they get cleared through HR just like a volunteer. And they have someone giving badges, and those ones have been fingerprinted to get badges. So yes, we have full background vetting on them.
Okay, there's just a safety question on that. And then looking at the difference between the 2 bids, between Vital and Hermanson, looking like it's a pretty big spread, I was just curious in looking through the contract, and again, forgive me, I work in construction, so I enjoy looking at these things. When it talks about how that they can provide a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on-call service to us, but that's not covered in our contract. The overtime is not covered in our contract. How often do we have to call them outside of a normal 9 to 5 workday? Is that very common?
If I had to guess, probably 5 times a year.
Oh, okay, so it's not
Not very often.
a big deal for us. Okay, great, thank
And
you.
they're great. All 3 of these companies are great about being out here. So if Hermanson wasn't available, we would call Vital or Chemistry next. And they're always great about responding pretty quick.
Okay, since there are no other questions, I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 5.02, action to approve district-wide HVAC preventative maintenance agreement, passes 4-0. Thank you, Sean.
Anytime you want to go into the HVAC units like Director Pendergraft has, please let the superintendent's office know. Make sure it's kind of fun to open the apps and see these things.
It's very fun. You seem very joyful about that, yes. Agenda item 5.03 is reviewing our revised procedures 2150P, our co-curricular program, and Executive Director of Teaching and Learning, Don Wakely, is going to join us now.
So as you know, when we're thinking about student activities, we just saw a group of wonderful young people who were connected to our Associated Student Modern, or ASD, and those are in the bucket of activities. And we also have sports, things like that. We also have some activities that are curricular in nature. When we think about our CTE student organizations like DECA, that would be a good example of an organization of student activity that is in the co-curricular bucket. So those students have to be in one of our marketing classes to be a part of the DECA program, and that's actually a requirement connected to, or a requirement for us to offer student organizations, especially in CTE, where students have that opportunity to do that as a function of being actually a CTE class. So we have all sorts of co-curricular activities, and this particular policy just helps to identify those as something that we have and establishes the criteria for which we put them in the co-curricular bucket. And as you can see, it's really has to be connected to a course or significant learning that we have happening in the school system. Any questions I can answer?
Some of the changes as I read through, seemed borderline semantical.
That's all I would
So
say.
is this, are the policy changes a response to like some issues that have arisen or something?
I would say this is one of those ones in a bucket of lots of policies that periodically get looked at and refreshed, and a new person who's working on their side takes a look at those, and it's really just semantics. A little bit of definition, I appreciated the pieces connected to calling out, but those are just calling out some practices that we've had for a long time, so really zero change to practice for us.
Don, can you clarify, just because of the language we're using, did the policy change at all, because this is the procedure?
Sorry, no change,
Okay.
zero. And it's just an update.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much. Agenda item 5.04 is reviewing our revised procedure 3205P, sexual harassment of students prohibited. We have Acting Director of Human Resources Tracy Krause and Assistant Director of Human Resources Scott Mitchell joining us.
Good evening, everybody. We are here to talk about the procedure 3205P. And the biggest change on this is it designates an appropriate decision maker rather than the board of directors. And it creates a greater flexibility, but also there's requisite training that goes into having to hear these appeals. And so that's kind of why the WASD is recommending this change.
You ready for questions? Yes, okay. Do we have any questions? Aditi?
Yeah, I actually just had a kind of question. I mean, you don't have to go super in depth into it, but what exactly, like, maybe like what's like the duration exactly of like the requisite training? I'm just like wondering, like, based on like how like in depth would it be, and like why exactly was the switch made to from the board to like a specific person deciding this?
The board would have to have, everybody on the board that hears the appeal would have to have the requisite training. It's kind of, there's some detailed training that we haven't gotten the details of all the training from our buzz yet. But we did hear that it's quite a bit. There's hours of training involved, and there's also some really deep inclusive sexual harassment laws that also follow in this that get a little more detailed into actual sexual harassment.
Who in our system could serve in this capacity for the level 2?
The training that we have right now is the training that Tracy and I are working on getting. But the level 2 appeal, that would be something that we have to get trained, we're fighting through LASA.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Agenda item 5.05 is our first reading revised policy and procedure 3220, freedom of expression, and we have our same people joining us. So hello.
Hello. 3220, freedom of expression. It's really just an update to an existing WASD policy that aligns us with the law from 2018, the New Visions Law. And so it just actually, there's just a couple of word changes in the policy. It increases the freedom of expression of our students by moving from advocate to incite in the language.
Questions? Okay, thank you both. Agenda item 5.06 is first reading revised policy 3432, emergencies, and operations supervisor Sean Kelly will join us again.
Honor to be back up here.
It's an honor to have you.
This is WASDA recommendations. If you look at page 3, clicker page 3. There you go. And this actually went into last legislative session too. They actually put this in state law too, that we do not have any more lockdown drills involving law enforcement like we used to at junior high back in the day. And we had it at Tahoma High School one time. So actually we're making sure this is in procedure too. Make sure it's there. If you go to a couple other pages back, there's just some small grammar things with the major there. And that's about it. Actually, let me go back to page 2. Just small grammar things there. Good. Any questions? Okay, great. Oh, no.
Yes, Vice President Miller.
Just reading through this, I got to wondering about to what extent the element of surprise to some degree is built into our drills, meaning recess times, passing periods, lunches, and so forth, when we're not all in classrooms. Is that built into our drill matrix kind of?
Yeah, I told the working superintendent in that class safety meeting, I told principals that we would not do a lockdown surprise drill, but there is going to be a surprise fire drill sometime this year. So I will go ask the principal what's going on right now, and if it's somewhat calm, then we'll do a surprise fire drill, because you never know when the popcorn's going to go off in the microwave. So that's why we got to be ready for that kind of stuff. So.
Okay, thank you very much. Agenda item 5.07 is first reading revised policy 6225, use of electronic signatures. And Chief Accountant Bill Hernandez and Director of Finance and Operations Lori Cloud will now join us, although I just see Bill, so it's going to be a one-man show.
Go Bill. All right, board policy 6225. This is a new policy we don't have in place already. This would give the district the ability to use electronic signatures in the same manner that we use physical signatures.
Do we have any questions?
Do we have a uniform kind of digital platform that we would allow this on, or is it kind of up to whatever digital signature platform you use?
Not yet. We're still leaving Cindy Darcy, the head person, Tributes and Tech, and we're still going through the interview process with a variation of vendors. We've talked with and received quotes from 4 different vendors: Panadocs, DocuSign, Laserfiche, and Form K12. The packages vary company to company based on what we need, and that's another thing. We're still in the process of analyzing what do we need as a district. We want to do a slow, gradual rollout and start with maybe one department and eventually move district-wide, or do we want to go jump straight into the ocean, make electronic signatures available to everyone? So that's one big challenge we're facing, and also to monitor restrictions with the variations in our needs. I mean, if we do start small, it could be that's the less $2,000 or $3,000. If we do go big, it could be as big as $100,000. We're still trying to vet through and figure out what do we actually need as a district right here, right now, and where do we see ourselves in the next 5, 10, 15 years, and so on and so forth.
Dr. Pendercraft?
Is this pretty common practice for some of our surrounding districts? Do they use this, the e-signatures already as well?
Yep,
They do.
exactly. And a lot of them had implemented this during COVID.
Yeah.
Some of them, like us, have still yet to do it, so this is a relatively new policy that was released a year and a half ago.
Since this is brand new, I imagine we don't have a procedure yet. Would that be, it seems like going through those motions and figuring out what we want this to look like would inform that process of writing up a procedure. Is that kind of the plan?
Exactly.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
We have a question over here.
Oh yes, hi, Slayton. I'm so excited to see your hand up.
I just have a question. Are there any instances in which there are like exceptions? So would anybody be required to sign something in person, or is it fully digital?
That's a really good question. And in our preliminary thinking, we're saying that we do want certain processes to remain physical. For example, from a security standpoint, we require that all of our employees actually physically sign their contracts with us. They physically sign off on their bank account information so that we know, yes, this person actually signed off, and it wasn't Joe Schmo who hacked their email account and was able to get access to their electronic signatures. So especially from a cybersecurity standpoint, those key documents at a high level where we're at right now, we want those to be maintained via physical wet signature.
Are there any like legal concerns with this about like things like hacking or identity theft or things of that sort?
Absolutely, definitely. Allowing electronic anything in this time, these days and times, just opens yourself up to a lot of risks. And again, this is going to be a process that's going to require a lot of thinking, a lot of time, and a lot of input from people all across the district before we roll anything out. So, question.
Thank you. I'd just say that if I can, yeah, for at least two of those vendors that you've mentioned, DocuSign and Preventative, I'm familiar with both of those. And, they have fully vetted security audits that they go through to make sure that they're that the information that they have is protected and secure and all of those kinds of things. So, I expect that the other two probably do too, but that's certainly part of something I would hope would be part of the evaluation process, is just understanding what their security stuff is in place, what kind of audits they've got, and making sure those are up to snuff.
Yeah, and there's even special rules who the signature is going to, the intention of the signature. For example, the rules for an internal signature, like from a wilderness to CSC, those rules are different than signing something from CSC over to, I don't know, Home Depot to purchase timber or something. So there's so many unique nuances to the electronic signature piece. It's going to take a while to look at and dig into before we make a true accurate decision.
Feel free to, we just rolled over from Paradox to DocuSign at my company. And so I was working with our CTO to roll through that whole process, so feel free to call me if you think I can lend that expertise. And so we did the whole architecture discussions, and then it's more to President Miller's point, how you control access and authority. And it's easier to sign things when they're digitally, but that can kind of create some looseness in the protocol. So happy to lend some feedback.
Thank you, Bill. We will move on to the meeting management portion of our evening, and we have just one agenda item in this section. Action to approve a consent agenda. May I please have a motion to approve agenda item 6.01, action to approve our consent agenda?
I move to approve our consent agenda.
Second that motion.
Vice President Miller motion and Director Wiggins seconded. Thank you. I will call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
The approval of agenda item 6.01, action to approve our consent agenda, passes 4-0. And that brings us to adjournment. So thank you all so much for joining us tonight. I hope you have a great evening.